Everyone. I am back again. Uh, been a lot going on since the last time we talked. Kind of excited to talk about some of the things that happened, and kind of want to share some of the stuff that has really helped me this week. Has some. I always have an interesting week, and this is no different. And I definitely want to jump in, share some of those insights, and possibly share with you some of the things that have helped me along the way. I could not think about what I was going to talk about, and I really didn't know what was going to happen. And I said, well, we're going to get on, and whatever comes up, that's what we're going to talk about. But I kind of got something at the last minute that I want to share. So, hey, without further ado, let's go. So, I am just leaving a meeting with another tech founder. Wow, wrong video. Intro. Here we go. The light messing up when you first start to keep you humble for the rest of the podcast. So that's what happened. But I am really happy to be here. Feel like I'm in a really good space today. First of the week was kind of, it was meh. It seemed like we had a lot of challenges going on. Had to have quite a few hard conversations. And these were conversations with me trying to operate in this new nervous system that I got. So it was challenging because I'm still testing it out. And but I was successful. I was able to articulate what I needed. I did not abandon myself along the way. I held to my principles, but it had a toll. So I had to kind of take the next couple of days to be kind of easy because it was contractual stuff. It was, possibly loss of relationship stuff. And one of the things that I often feared when I was younger was about losing people as I became successful. Um, and it was amazing how that still has a bearing on me today. And but the truth of the matter is, you're gonna lose some folk. Some people, this is gonna be their time to exit your life. They're not gonna they're not gonna go to the rest of the way with you, and that has been very difficult for me at different times to accept because I'm always thinking from a family mindset. I'm always thinking like this is family, and everybody's gonna be with us forever. But truthfully, it doesn't always work that way. And I had a situation with someone that I'm very close to, and fortunately, we was able to work certain things out. But it was texting and it was trying. So, but tonight we're talking about 1, 2, 3 manifest. But before we get to that, I want to share some things that helped me this week. There's a psychiatrist that Esther found online that is speaking along the lines of what we're talking about. I love bringing the science into this teaching that we have. When we start talking about becoming, I love bringing science. And if you was here last week, you start seeing how your brain actually works. So we're going to kind of keep going down that vein. And hopefully this will help some of you all that resonate with what we're trying to do at this point. But she's going to talk about something that I have struggled with a great deal in my life called shame. Shame. Um, it is why I have worked so hard because I'm trying to constantly prove that I'm good enough. And I've had to break that cycle because it was literally getting the best of me. I was winning, I was succeeding, but I wasn't enjoying. I wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying the fruits of my labor. And one of the promises that I made to myself as I started this part of my journey at this age, I want to know joy, and I want to experience that joy in my work. So I'm gonna put some of her on, and we're gonna kind of listen to it. I'll probably stop in certain places and kind of talk, but we're gonna talk about the effects of shame, not just on you emotionally, but what does shame actually do to your brain?
Back from setbacks, how your brain turns mistakes into breakthroughs, and even how it recovers from trauma. But there's one emotional experience that can block all of that progress: shame. Shame is the voice that whispers, "You're not just someone who failed, you are a failure." And it's more than just a feeling. It actually disrupts your brain's learning systems and makes it harder for you to build resilience. So in this video, we're going to look at what shame does to your brain, why it keeps you stuck, and how to train your brain to fail smarter so you can keep moving forward without losing your confidence or sense of self. Let's start with what happens in your brain when you feel shame. Shame activates something called the default mode network. And this is the same part of the brain that gets active when you're replaying things in your head, ruminating on your mistakes, or analyzing what you should have done differently. When the default mode network is overactive, it's like your brain is stuck in a loop of negative self-talk. You're not just reflecting for growth purposes, you're rehearsing pain. And at the same time, your cortisol levels spike, and that's one of your stress hormones. High cortisol makes it harder for your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, rational part of your brain, to stay online. So instead of being able to learn from what happened, your brain goes into defense mode. It floods you with emotions, shuts down your executive function, and makes it hard for you to see the situation clearly. In short, shame scrambles the very systems that your brain relies on to adapt and recover. When you experience a failure, your brain can take one of two routes. One opens the door for growth and insight, and the other leads to emotional shutdown. Which path it takes depends largely on whether shame gets activated. This is why shame is so dangerous to resilience. When you make a mistake and feel guilty, we're looking at the difference between guilt and shame. With guilt, you might think, I handled that badly. I need to make it right. And this is action-oriented thinking. But shame sounds more like there's something wrong with me, and that shuts everything down. And instead of looking at what went wrong and learning from it, shame keeps you focused on your identity, as if the mistake defines who you are. That internalized judgment can lead to avoidance, procrastination, perfectionism, or even quitting, not because you don't care, but because the risk of feeling that shame again feels unbearable.
All right, so that right there, shame would activate perfectionism in me because I did not want to feel that way. And I can see how it has shut people down in the past. But for me in particular, everything had to be perfect. I had to know the end results before it happened. And which is interesting about what I'm talking about tonight, because I have felt that my movie career to this point has been a failure because I didn't have a major distribution deal. Soul Damage did not take off. The other films, they did what they did, but they did not result in the outcome that I thought it should have. And when I was talking to a friend the other day, I was talking to him about the invention, and the first thing he said, the last thing he said was, "You sure you're the only one that's created this?" Because I talked to somebody in Atlanta, and they said somebody has already done this, and immediately I felt that rush of negative emotion coming. And what I said to him was, I said, "Well, that's the process, man. We've put the patent in place, but we got to play it out. We got to see it all the way through." And but what happened? Shame creeped back in. And then all these doubts were in my head. These doubts were in my mind, like, oh man, you're putting yourself out here. You done started this podcast. You've done this stuff. You're gonna look like a fool. People are gonna talk about you. You're gonna look bad. All this shame started to flood me. But I started doing my 1, 2, 3 manifests, right? And I'm gonna share with you the secrets of how I come out of certain emotional states and how I'm able to move forward. First step is I have to acknowledge where I am. I have to acknowledge what emotional state I am. I have to name it. If I am in shame, I have to stop and say, you know something, this is shame. And there's something that happens in my head when I acknowledge the state that I'm in, then that helps me. That takes some pressure off. The next thing is the emotional regulation. I have to do what is necessary to get me back to alignment, whether that is singing, whether that is praying, whether that is meditating. I am doing my whole focus at that point is how do I get out of sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system. That is nothing else exists except me trying to get to that state. The reason is I cannot receive the guidance and the insight I need if I'm still stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. If I'm still stuck in the shame, if I'm still stuck in the fear, if I'm still stuck in those places, I can't receive through prayer. I can't receive through insight. I can't receive through divine guidance. I can't receive any of it until I shift my emotional state, right? Once that emotional state is shifted, I'm waiting. Step 2 is emotional regulation. Step 3 is waiting for inspired action. And what is inspired action? Inspired action is not just a thought that comes to my head. It is a thought that I feel with my whole being. It's like, you need to do this. And there's a witness within me. And I know it's the right steps. And every time I do it, the manifestation happens. Every time. Now, most of the time, I'm going to be honest, most of the time, I don't have the patience to wait. Most of the time, my anxiousness gets.
Here's the neuroscience angle. The more.
All right, get wrong, but the more I get excited sometimes, I don't wait for the inspired action. But I'm here to tell you, just as sure as I'm on this thing with you, when I wait for the inspired action, magic always happens. Always happens. So the real discipline that I'm experiencing is, how do I identify what emotional state I'm in, to regulate my emotions, do whatever it takes to bring me out of sympathetic to parasympathetic, go out of fight or flight to rest and digest. Because your nervous system is the whole key. It is the door of you receiving and you causing these things to happen, for these things to start happening magically for you. Now, I've made a very bold statement that we're going to create and launch this tech company, and it is very important that I protect the state that I'm in. So, I wanted to provide different truths tonight to kind of show you what this looks like. But before I do that, I want to go back to the psychiatrist, and I want you to hear a little more, because I want you to understand that shame is not just something that's in your head. It's in your head, all right, but it is having a major effect on how you see the world and what your brain is doing. So let's go back to it for a second.
On shame, the more you strengthen those unhelpful neural pathways, the more you rehearse the idea that you are the problem, the more your brain wires that belief in. Think of it as an emotional loop, your mind rehearsing pain instead of processing it. Resilience comes from breaking that cycle. And I want to emphasize another point about guilt versus shame, because oftentimes they can just get meshed together. Guilt says, I did something bad, while shame says, I am bad. And this might sound like semantics, but neurologically, it's a big difference. Guilt keeps your prefrontal cortex online. It allows for reflection and learning. You think, how could I do things differently? Shame, though, shuts this down, pushing your brain into survival mode instead of growth mode. So what can you do about this? There are specific science-backed strategies.
So did you hear when she was saying how shame shuts down your prefrontal cortex and it takes away your ability to learn? And then what you're doing is you're in a loop and you're just constantly rehearsing what went wrong. That is not just something that you're doing. This is neurologically happening to you. And without the tools on how to self-regulate and how to do this, you'll just keep thinking something is wrong with you. And I remember most of my life, like, what is wrong with me? And I didn't realize it was because I did not understand the science that was happening. Now, the same thing about trauma, trauma also takes the prefrontal cortex offline. It takes it offline. And the other thing is it also hijacks your hippocampus, right? This is part of the brain that deals with memory and stuff like this. So one of the main things that happen to people who've experienced any type of trauma is that they have problems remembering exactly what's happened. It's sketchy. And when their prefrontal cortex is taken offline, they can't think right. So you're not thinking when you're doing a lot of this stuff. You're just simply reacting and responding. And you're reacting out of fear. It's just like that's how people can just run out in traffic, because the prefrontal cortex is offline. So this is not just it's something you just can't get it right. No, there's science behind this. And the better we understand the science, the better we understand ourselves. Now we can start healing what is wrong, and we can start getting better. You can pray all you want. If there's no aligned action to go along with that prayer, you're going to continue to stay where you are. So that's why it's so important that I want to share tonight about my 1, 2, 3 manifest. First of all, where are you? What emotional state you're in? Name it. Once you say that, you stop. And then you stop, and then you regulate. And after you emotionally regulate, now you're in a place that you can hear God. You can hear your inner being. Now you're in that place that once you get the inspired action, and sometimes it doesn't come as quickly as we want, but if we wait on it, I'm here to tell you, magic will happen. I just hope for y'all this week will put this to the test and say, you know something? Some things happen. I'm going to do this 1, 2, 3 manifest. I'm going to stop. I'm going to feel where I am, align where I'm at. I'm going to self-regulate. Then I'm going to be quiet until I know in my being what the next step is. And then let me know what the results. Inbox me. Let me know something. But I don't want you to think that I'm just bringing this up. I'm going to show you some of the scriptures that back up what I'm talking about. So I don't know if many of you all remember the story of David when he was talking about the battle of Ziklag. And what happened, this is when David was in exile. David was in exile, and they were just running from Saul, but they were in another city, but they were still sacking other cities. But when they came back to their town, they found that it was burned, and they took all their daughters and their wives, and the men cried. So this is what the scripture says in 1 Samuel 30:3. And David and his men came back to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. These men, these battle-driven men, these soldiers cried so hard until they did not have any more power to cry. That is despair. That is a despair. That is sadness. That is pain. That is fear. That's everything. And I can't think of anything worse than to come back and I think something has happened to my kids. Verse 4. Then David and the people that were with him lift up their voice and they cried until they had no more power to weep. Verse 5. David's 2 wives were taken, Ahinoam and the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal, the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed. Listen, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people were grieved, every man for his son and his daughter. But David encouraged himself in the Lord. Now, okay, not only is David experiencing loss here, now the people, his own men are talking about killing him. I mean, he literally had nowhere else to go. But that scripture always confused me when it says, and David encouraged himself in the Lord. So what happened, David, okay, I'll get back to 1, 2, 3, Esther. David cried. He acknowledged the emotional state he's in. This is step 1, acknowledging where you are. They cried. They did not hide their emotions, and that's where we get in a lot of trouble because we try to block what we're feeling. We try to act like it's not there. And when you're not allowing your emotions to filter through, then that energy is being stored in your body and it's souring. So you have to express the emotion and then let it go. So sometimes you got to walk out and yell, do whatever you got to do, but you have to acknowledge where you are. Step 2, you have to now emotionally regulate. This is what David was doing when he said he encouraged himself. Now, the scripture didn't go in detail to say exactly what he was doing. He could have been singing songs. David was a poet. He might have been reciting a poem to himself, but he was shifting the emotional state that he was in to the emotional state he needed to be in, which was parasympathetic. Verse 7, and David said to Abiathar, the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me here the ephod. And Abiathar brought him thither the ephod, and David inquired of the Lord. So now, once David had shifted his emotional state, he now went and prayed. He went and meditated. He said, okay, I need direction. And this is what he asked. Verse 8, he inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue. He waited for step 3, inspired action. Once he felt the Lord said, pursue, not before, because most people would have just took off running then. He stopped. He knew he was in the wrong emotional state. He acknowledged the emotional state. He self-regulated, even when the men were talking about killing him. And then he asked and inquired, once he got regulated, what should we do? He waited for inspired action. The word goes on to say, pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. And David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besser, where they rose and left some behind. But the story goes on to say they recovered all. They recovered all. And matter of fact, not only did they recover everything that they had, they overtook the people that got them, and they took their wealth and their riches as well. So I don't want you to think that this is just something I'm talking about in my head. I am seeing this more and more in the scriptures. More and more I'm seeing this. Every time Jesus did a major miracle, he would go and retreat. He would go into the mountains. He would get away from stuff. He would recharge. Listen, there is something to this. But not just from the scriptures. I see it in movies. I mean, I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing this pattern everywhere in all the stuff that I'm in. So there was a movie. There was this movie back in the day called Bloodsport. Now, the acting is horrible. This is when Jean-Claude Van Damme was kind of first in his career. And this is really it's a story based off a true guy by the name of Frank Dukes, who actually did all this wonderful stuff. But this scene that I'm about to show you is from the movie Bloodsport. And basically, it is when his opponent, the great Yoko or Yolo, I can't remember the guy's name, but he died here. Matter of fact, probably a couple of years ago, but a great Chinese actor. He put something in the guy's eyes and he became blind. Now, I'm not going to show you the whole scene, but I'm going to show you the parts of it. And I want you to see him acknowledging his emotional state by expressing the emotions that he was having. 2, emotionally regulating. And 3, then waiting for inspired action. Okay? So I'm going to play it. I'm not going to say anything. Well, I can't promise that because every time I see somebody, we want to say something in the film. But we're going to put it up and let y'all check it out.
Get up, Frankie!
I mean, just horrible acting, man. Just horrible. Yeah, don't mind it. You watch it. Now I don't know how it happened in real life, but that's movie right there. That's just cinematic because he would have got his butt. He would have got the dog stink whooped out of him if he took all that time. But I'm showing you that it even shows up in our movies. There is something to acknowledging where you are. You have to acknowledge. You have to express that emotion. Nothing is gained by you bearing what you feel. You need to let that emotion cycle out. That needs to cycle out because that's what you feel. After you let that cycle out, then you stop and say, okay, this is where I am. I'm fearful. I'm angry. I'm upset. Now, let's do everything in our power to start going towards self-regulation. Because if you don't switch out of sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic, if you don't change the emotional state of your nervous system, your prefrontal cortex is not going to be online. All the things in the systems that you need to work or to be able to be in reception mode is not going to happen. So what has to happen now is once you get to parasympathetic mode, you have to wait for the inspired action. And this is an action that's not just a good idea, but it's something that your body says, okay, I'm ready. And when you do that, the magic happens. So I hope that some of this was able to help you tonight. This has helped me. Gonna tell you, let's deal with the shame issue that I had with my friend. And he was telling me someone else has done this. And then I'm thinking about how Soul Damage has not had a theatrical run, did not get distribution. But when I thought about it and I expressed my feelings and I started to regulate, what I started to receive was everything that is happening into my life now has happened from that first movie that I made. Just today, in the last couple of weeks, for those who don't know, Anjanou Ellis is hosting she's hosting something called The Convocation. It is not just a film festival, but it's going to be theater. It's going to be a lot of heavy hitters that are going to be there. Centra Smith, who is Tasha Smith's identical twin sister, is going to be there. Sanaa Lathan will be. I don't think she's going to be in person, but she's going to be zooming in. Casey Lamans, who did Eve's Bayou. There are going to be a lot of great women filmmakers that are going to be there. And I've been blessed to have the privilege, me and Esther and Candace and the team, we are helping with that effort. But I got recommended because people believed in the work that I've done over the years. And it started with Soul Damage. I also got a call today because someone needed my help to get in contact with people like Tate Taylor. And Tate Taylor I consider him a friend, but I have a great relationship with him and John. But these are people that I would have never met had I not done the first film. I carried shame for years because I felt like it had not done what it was supposed to do. But here we are, 10 years later, 5 years with a film festival, and now I'm an inventor. If it had not been for that film that I felt shamed about, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So when my friend said that, maybe someone has this, and it started putting that doubt in my mind, I just felt like God had to remind me, say, well, look what that perceived failure you had, look what it has done for you. And for the first time in my life, I'm at a place, and this is what I said after that. I am going to keep moving forward with this idea, not because I know what the outcome is going to be. I just want to enjoy the journey. I just want to see what happens. Because if all of that happened from a movie that I thought failed, just imagine what can happen from an innovation that has never existed before. So that's the reason why I keep coming here each week, because I want to share what I'm learning. I want to overcome the fear. And I think from those of you who have been with me in the beginning, I think I've done a really good job of overcoming the fear of even coming on here and I can't see your faces. And I am speaking from a place of more comfort. I'm not 100% by any means, but I am better. And I think the whole point of this is showing progress. And that's what I want to show you. I want to show you the good. I want to show you the bad. I want to show you when it works. And I want to show you when it fails, because this is therapeutic for me. But more importantly, I want you to see it didn't just happen. I want to also share what I've learned, like this 1, 2, 3 manifest. It works. It works. Like I said, when it doesn't work for me, it is because I didn't have the patience, or I got impatient and I got out of it and I stopped. Right? But look, hope I said something tonight. Look, I'm going to give you a few more minutes. I'm going to play something real quick. If you have any questions, I definitely want to hear them. So I'm going to find something to play. Probably going to play what I play, the Revolution thing all the time. And we're going to take. Let's see here. I'll pull up something to give you a little time to catch up. And if you have questions, I want to answer them. Okay, where you at, Revolution? There we go. Okay. All right. I started, said I want to be a filmmaker. They said we couldn't do it. When we said we was going to make the film festival, they said we couldn't do it. We've done consistently what they said we could. We're entering the media tech space. Since they won't give us distribution, we're going to create our own. We have 4 pending patents on this project, 6 ordered, 18 new innovations, 2 new categories that never existed before. We're not going to beg anymore for a place at the table. Those days are over. They should have gave us a seat. I am not coming to participate. I'm coming to dominate. Da Vinci died poor because the people of the time did not understand him. We have one simple thing: be your truth, and we will attract your tribe. God bless you. Thank you all for coming out for the Jackson Film Festival tonight. So, thank you all for being on. Also, I don't know if you're going to be, what you got going on next week, but on October the 9th, I'll be in Hattiesburg. We'll be screening Action Soul Damage with the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta. They're in Hattiesburg. We're going to have a panel discussion. There are going to be some other folks, so I should be sharing some information about that real soon. We also got something else coming up in December I'll be letting you know about. But we're working on a project, and the biggest thing now is that we're trying to go to market. We are in beta. We're almost in beta. We have a couple of things on the table. We also are playing with some designs that we're looking to release real soon, and you'll be some of the first people to see it. But look, if I haven't said I appreciate you before, let me know. Let me let you know I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all your prayers. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for every kind word. every encouraging word that you've given me, even if I never talk to you, I just want to let you know I appreciate it. I feel your love and I feel your energy. And we're going to do something that's never been done before. And I'm going to document it right here. And you all can say you was here in real time. And when these other jokers come back and they start trying to listen to this stuff and find out what the secrets is, you can say, hey, he said this was going to happen. Thank you so much. Okay. Can you give me the steps again? So 1, 2, 3 manifest. Was trying to take notes. Okay. Absolutely, roll. So, okay, is registration required to attend the conference? You talking about, okay, let me deal with the first one. 1, 2, 3 manifest. First step is acknowledging the emotional state that you're in. Like you have to acknowledge it. And when I say acknowledge it, I'm not just saying I'm sad. I'm saying don't fight the feeling. Allow the sadness to filter through, the anger to filter through, because emotions are always meant to be expressed. It's just like eating. You eat food and the food passes through you. If you keep blocking your emotions, you're going to start creating these emotional blocks, and those emotions are going to just sit inside of you and they're going to fester, and then they're going to become negative and they're going to become toxic. Okay? So emotions are very important to express. Even if you can't do it around people, you have to get somewhere to safely allow those emotions to filter through. So first thing, acknowledge where you are, accept those emotions. Step 2, self-regulate. You have to shift from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic. So basically, if you got whatever you got to do to get yourself in a place that you feel safe, that you feel like, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm breathing, I'm no longer in a state of panic. That is crucial, because if you do not get to that place, God could be speaking to you, the answers could be coming to you, because the prefrontal cortex is going to be offline and sympathetic in fight or flight. So emotional regulation is step 2. Step 3 is waiting for inspired action. And what I mean by inspired action is that urge from the inside, not a push or a pull, but that nudging in your heart and in your mind, like, do this now. And it's like hearing that still small voice. That's the inspired action. When you feel it with your being, go then. Now, like I said, what gets me in trouble a lot is that I don't have the patience, because a lot of times I have cheated the process and not waited or done the due diligence that it takes for me to get into parasympathetic. And sometimes it takes hours, sometimes it takes days. But every time I follow this process, I'm here to tell you that the magic happened. Let me tell you some magic that happened last night, right? We were talking to some IP attorneys, and it was my thought that they were going to kind of help us get to market. And because part of the strategy is I have to get to market first and in a major way. So I kind of thought they were going to kind of, call in some favors, do some stuff. And they're like, oh, no, all we're doing is doing the contracts, and, and we're making sure we protect you. And I kind of felt bummed about that. And I expressed it. I expressed how I felt to myself. I said, something, kind of feel deflated behind this. I kind of thought they were going to do more. But what I did was I started getting into appreciation. I started being thankful for where I was, and I waited, right? I waited, and then out of sudden I got an email. And the email was from someone I hadn't talked to in a while, and he was telling me about something that I qualified for. That he said, man, I think you need to do this. And it's a pitch session in the very areas that I'm working in. And if I get accepted, this will not just be a national, this will be a global thing. Now, I don't know if it's going to work, but the synchronicity is amazing. And that's what I trust. I trust synchronicities, because after the inspired action, the synchronicity is going to happen, and things are going to be like, man, wait a minute, they just can't be coincidence. That's the magic. Okay. So I hope I answered that pretty good. Step 1, 2, 3 is basically you have to acknowledge where you are. After you acknowledge where you are, 2, emotionally regulate. After you have emotionally regulated, then you wait for the inspired action. After the inspired action, you're going to know it. You're going to know it because you're going to feel it, and things are just going to work. Okay. So look, try it. And here's the thing. Don't be afraid to mess up with this. We're in this together. We're in this journey together. You hear me? So if you mess up, look, inbox me and say, hey man, where did I get it wrong? And and then we'll try to address it next week. But I want all of us to win. And what I know is there's enough out here for all of us to get it. It's enough out of us to have everything that we ever wanted. And I am gonna be living proof. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna let you see me fail, stumble along the way, but make no mistake about it. I'm gonna win. Because I already have. I didn't choose this. It shows me. You did. There's a destiny that is waiting for you to step into it, and you're going to be so much better for it. Your family's going to be so much better for it because you're the person you are now can't be the same person you're going to be once you get it. You're going to change and you're going to develop and you're going to become. And I know it's going to feel scary and sometimes it's going to feel like you have an identity crisis, but trust me, joy is on the other side. All right. God bless y'all. Thank you all. I hope y'all got something tonight. See y'all next week.